guys to make sure that you nudge each other and keep each other awake during all of this. I'll try not to bore you out as we go through this. My role here today is to give a little bit of context and a little bit of background for Henry County, where we are as a district, where we're headed as a district, and give some context of the work that you guys are going to be doing here. Like Todd has said over and over again, I'm as excited, maybe not quite as effusively excited as he is, but I'm excited about this place and what this is going to be for the kids in our district. This is a very special place. It is built as a special place, and as he said, it's built as a special place not because of the bricks and the mortar and the carpet and the furniture, but because of the people sitting in this room. And all of you have raised your hand and said, being in a special place, doing special things for kids is what I'm about as an educator and is what I'm about as a person. And we're excited to be able to support that work and to make that work happen here in our district. This is also a special place for me because I cut my teeth in the Hampton region, in the Hampton area. I was principal at Llewellyn Middle School about 3 miles down the road when all of this world went to Llewellyn Middle School. At one point in our district's history, everybody south of exit 218 went to Llewellyn Middle School. And so this is a very special place in my heart as well, because I care deeply about the kids who live in this community, the kids who are coming to this school, and the families that have been a part of Hampton for a long time. They're also very excited about Hampton High School being here. And that's something that's really cool as well, is the community is excited about having its own high school. So you have lots of things in your favor right now. Yeah.
Oh, no, they're waving, Aaron. They're saying hi.
Hey, it was just really a couple of them just work with me. There's lots of excitement built for this to happen, and that's good, and I want you to take advantage of that. But I also want you to try to suspend the excitement for just a minute and think about what it's going to be like in 4 months. Because in 4 months, it's going to be around October. You're going to be tired. You're going to have kids who aren't doing what you wanted them to do because they were excited when they got here, and then the, oh crap, I'm in high school hit, and they're going to start doing things they're not supposed to do. Your excitement is going to wane a little bit as well. And so as you're thinking about all this work that you're doing right now, and you're thinking about all the ways that you're going to get started, it's really easy to get caught up. The adrenaline is flowing and everything's happening. But you should be thinking about not the first day of school, you should be thinking about the 45th day of school, right? And what do you want it to look like on the 45th day of school? And I know Todd's going to push, and Danny and John, they're going to push you guys to be in that space and to do that work. But use the excitement to think long term. Because the excitement is great, but you need to be able to carry that forward for our kids, because they deserve that. They deserve to have you walk in. It's going to be awesome. They deserve to have you walk in on October 3rd with the same excitement that you have on August 4th. They deserve for you to walk in on February 3rd with the same excitement that you have on August 4th. And so I want you to think about how you're going to support each other to get there as well. Because teachers work greatest when they work closely together and when they support each other. And support doesn't just mean, buying a bagel for your friend who doesn't get breakfast in the morning because they're running around picking their kids up, dropping them off, and doing all that. It also means calling them out when they're not doing the right things for kids. It means making sure that you're keeping your focus on the right things for kids every single day. And I'm excited about this place because I know that Todd worked really hard to make sure that each one of you was here because that's what you believe in. And it's just exciting work to be a part of it and to be here and to see it happening. I'm going to bore you for a couple minutes with some slides that talk about Henry County. And really the reason why this place exists and why this work on personalized learning in our district exists. Because we believe as a district, both myself, Mr. Bowler, the school board, we believe that Henry County is poised to do great things and to do great things differently for kids. We are a pretty large district, and I'll talk through that in just a minute. But we really got energized about 5 years ago, starting thinking differently, when Sir Ken Robinson actually came to the district. How many people have seen a TED Talk by Sir Ken Robinson? Raise your hand. Wow. Pretty depressing. We got to show a TED Talk of that. I'll get you a link to that. You got to see it if you haven't seen it. He talks a lot about creativity. He talks a lot about ways that public schools in America in particular are kind of sucking the energy out of kids and out of the world to a certain extent. But he talks about this, and he has this quote. He says, "But the dropout crisis is just the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't count all the kids who are in school day to day, but who are disengaged from it, who don't enjoy it. They don't get any real benefit from it. All of those kids that come and do what we ask them to do because they are compliant, because their parents tell them you go to school and you do what you're supposed to do, but they are not really in it. And we get all upset about those kids who are savvy enough to stand up and say, I'm not doing this crap, right? and we call them misfits, or we call them behavior problems, or they don't come to school. But those are those kids who just either emotionally don't have the ability to control their outbursts, but they're the ones who are saying what a lot of the other kids are thinking, is that school's not really giving me what I think I need. And so that's what this work for personalized learning is about, is saying that the kids that are going to be walking in the doors of this building, they deserve more than what we've been doing for the last 50 years. They deserve for school to be something that engages them, to be something that is purposeful to them, and that makes them college and career ready, so that when they leave high school, they know the world is in an oyster in front of them, not that high school was the high point in their life. And that's what this is about, because in Henry County, we don't really have a dropout crisis. We don't have any high schools where if you walk in those doors, there's a 50-50 chance you're going to walk out of graduate. We have a pretty good graduation rate. It could be better. But the question we're asking ourselves, which is the right question, is good is not good enough for us. How can we make it better? How can we really meet the needs of our kids? Henry County, a little background on our district and where we've been and what we've been doing. About 10, 15 years ago, Henry County was a district that was about 20% African American, about 80% white. About 15 years ago. This land that you're sitting on right here was farmland. There wasn't much going on. We were a pretty good district doing pretty good things. We had about 20,000 kids at that point in time in 2000. In the last decade, we have doubled in size. In the last decade, we have built 27 schools. And so what we defined ourselves as a district was growth. And so we spent all of our time opening new buildings. We spent all of our time taking faculties that were established, ripping them apart, and putting people in different buildings. A bunch of the people in here have done that already. I know, looking around at different faces, some of you have been here for 10 years, you've been in 4 different buildings. And it wasn't because you chose, it's just because you got moved, right? That's how we defined ourselves. And we've gotten really good as a district at opening new buildings. We have it down to a science. We know how to make it happen and make it happen pretty smoothly. But what that does when you're thinking about growth all the time is you're not thinking about really educational philosophy as deeply as you can. Because if you're worried about making sure you have textbooks, you're not really worried about what's in the textbook, right? And now we're at a point where we're not even sure we need those textbooks at all. We need to think more deeply about what we want kids to know and be able to do. And so for a long time, we defined ourselves as growth. We were actually the 7th fastest growing county in the United States for a good bit of time there. The economic recession hit, and I think that was actually a good thing for us as a district, because it slowed everything down, and it made us start to think. We had to cut our budget in 2008 from about $315 million down to $278 million in 1 year. We had cut $30 million. What that did was it made us think really deeply about what was important to us as a school district. And that was probably a good thing. It was painful. It has been painful in our district, as it has across the country, to have no salary increases. Everybody who's been in Henry for 5 years is excited to actually have a salary increase this year. But it was a good place because it forced us to start to examine the work that we do. At the same time that we were growing really fast because people were moving here from other places. A lot like some of you who have moved here. And they moved here largely for our school system. Henry County doesn't have a lot of jobs. About 80% of the people that live in Henry County commute out of Henry County for their work. And so they came here because of our school system and because of the community that we live in. Our demographics have changed significantly in those last 10 years as well. You can look at this chart right here, and it shows you that in 2001, I already mentioned that we were about 80% white and about 20% African American. There wasn't much of it. We look totally different right now. We are a majority minority school district now. We are a majority minority county right now. That is a very different place than we were 10 years ago. And a lot of our folks who live in our county are still living in a place that was 10 years ago. And we've had to change our perspective, right? And the great part about people moving here from other places is they bring new points of view. And that's been really, really powerful. It's really changed the way Henry County looks at itself and does the work that it does. And it's really made us a better place. It's made us more international. It's made us more aware of who we are as people. And it's really made us have to think deeply about what do we want to educate kids with who are in our community. And it's actually made us a richer, a better place. But at the same time that our demographics have changed and that we've been growing, our number of kids who are coming from struggling homes has increased pretty dramatically as well. And you know that very well here in the Hampton cluster, right? We have a lot of kids who are coming from free and reduced lunch, which means that they have some disadvantages before they get to school. But that doesn't mean they need disadvantages when they get to school, right? We can't control what happens in their house, but we can control what happens here. And we can make that great for them every single day that they're here. And you guys have that advantage because you're coming together as a cluster too. You have some cool things going on. You got Hampton Elementary starting up as a charter school this year. You've got this personalized learning work that the middle school and the high school are doing. You guys are saying, you know what, our kids deserve the best that we can make for them, and you're making it happen. Lots of changes. A couple other things about our district. We spend about the smallest amount on central office administration as any district in Georgia. We are actually number 2 out of 160 at the bottom, 182 actual districts. So our spending on central office is not very high. We actually try to get our money to the schools as best that we can and push it out there. That's what this graphic is down here. That's important because I'm going to talk about how we're going to support the work that you guys are doing and why we are trying to be very strategic in the money that we do have. And it's really, at the end of the day, we don't really want to talk about money, but you got to have resources in order to get stuff done. And I hope that you can see when you walk around here that we've invested resources in this school. We've made some choices about where our dollars and cents need to go. And we think you guys have the cents and we have the dollars, so we need to give it to you. As we go forward, if I tell the story of our demographics changing, if I say, look, we got poor, we have more minority students. If I told that story across the country, most people would say, well, I bet your test scores went down. Because historically, test scores, standardized test scores, are related to socioeconomic status, right? You can look at a standardized test score in any district across the country, and you can almost mark out what their standardized test scores look like. That's not the story in Henry County, though. Even though we had all of those changes across the last 10 years, you can see that our scores have remained static or risen over the last decade. That's a pretty amazing story. You know what? That really has nothing to do with anything the central office has done. It's really about what the teachers have done for those kids in those classrooms over the last 10 years. Because to be honest, we haven't been able to support very much. But our teachers said, no matter what's going on, we're going to teach these kids. And so you see these scores here. Some of you looking at this from out of state are looking at this dip right here going, what was that? We had a new curriculum that came in, that was the GPS. And when we put the GPS in, we had some dip because it was more rigorous. We expect that there's going to be a dip right here next year when Georgia Milestones takes place, the new testing assessment. We expect that to happen. We've seen that happen. Any of you who are math teachers have suffered through coordinate algebra. You've suffered through the geometry class, those scores that came out this year as well. We know that the tests are going to get more rigorous, but that's an opportunity for you guys, right? The opportunity is that you can take even greater risk right now because we expect your scores to drop, right? So if they drop, it could be because of what you did or it could be because of the test. Either way, it's not going to be a very good indicator of much of anything. So that's a little bit scary, but it's also a little bit exciting because it means that for this year at least, you can kind of skate free because everybody's scores are going to drop. So go out there and do the right things. Do what you know are for kids. And what's going to happen when you do that is you're actually going to get better scores than everybody else. I know that to be the case because you're going to be committed to kids. But there's always that fear, especially with teacher keys and leader keys, that, oh my gosh, I might lose my job if I'm not covering what's on the assessment. We don't care about coverage. We care about teaching kids. We care about making sure that you're focused on getting kids what they need when they go out in the world. We do have some impetus to kind of work a little bit harder on what we're preparing kids for when they leave here, though, because Georgia tests don't necessarily get kids ready for college. You know, just because you pass the CRCT or you pass the EOCT doesn't necessarily mean you're ready for college or you're ready for a job when you leave Henry County schools. One of those indicators across the nation that people use to measure that is the ACT. If you look at this graph here on the ACT, you can see that in Henry County, our scores average below the Georgia average and below the national average. The national expectation for a kid to be college and career ready when they leave high school is to get a 23 on the ACT. Our scores are so low, we didn't even put 23 on this graph. So as far as measures, it's one. It's not the only indicator, but it's one indicator. It's one that we see as valuable beyond everything that we do here to say these kids are ready for competitive universities that will make them globally competitive across the world. But so there's another story that's wrapped up in here, though. If you look at our graduation rate, you see that it's continued to go up over the last 4 years, right? So our kids are graduating. We're graduating more kids than we ever have. But our ACT and SAT scores continue to go down. And that's a little bit disheartening because that means we're giving kids credits, but are we really making sure that they're ready for the world when they leave us? Because none of these kids down here who took the ACT are the 22% of kids that didn't graduate. Because I don't know any dropouts or any kids who aren't going to graduate on time who are shelling out $85 to take the ACT. It's not happening, right? So these are our college-bound kids who are taking the ACT and the SAT, and they're still not performing as well as they could be. And so not only do you have the excitement of getting started and doing right by kids, but you have a huge opportunity to make a big impact on their future as we move forward. Because we want graduates, when they leave Henry County, we want people out in the world to say, you must have gone to Henry County schools, or you must have gone to Hampton High School, because they know what the caliber of a graduate is when they walk in that door. This is some data about Luella High School, and a little bit about Hampton Middle School. Your kids are being pulled from Luella High School. Everybody that's coming here was at Luella or Hampton Middle. So these scores are pretty accurate measures. As you look at this, you can see the blue line right here is Luella High School. ACT scores, a little bit lower than the Henry County average, around 18.5. SAT scores, a little bit lower as well. Graduation rate, though, is pretty high compared to the Henry County average. So that's an interesting story right there. And then you can see the Hampton Middle School writing tests. And I'm sure the Hampton Middle folks will be happy to talk to the high school folks about the work that they've been doing on addressing that, because they have been working hard. You also have some EOCTs. EOCT is going away. We'll be called the EOC next year, Georgia Milestones. Can't tell you anything about it because there is no information on it anywhere. Other than that, it will be a test, and kids will take it. So there you go. So there's an opportunity in that as well, right? The opportunity is if we don't know what's on it, we don't get to teach to it. And that's probably a good thing, right? Probably means that you can teach what you know is important. You have the standards haven't changed. You know what the curriculum is supposed to be about. Now you can make it work the way you want it to instead of worrying about a test. We really believe in the district office that these tests, they're an indicator, they're an important measure of something. We haven't really clarified what they're an important measure of yet, though. So there's nobody in the district office looking at these test scores saying, that's a bad school because of those scores. That doesn't mean it's not a starting place for a discussion, but we're not stacking people up, rank ordering them and saying, these are good schools, these are bad schools, let's go tell everybody about that. But we do look at it and say, let's ask some questions about what's going on for instruction for those kids. So you can see EOCT scores here for Luella High School. One thing we've been very careful about is separating out meets and exceeds. We think exceeds is where every kid in Henry County should be. We think exceeds is where every kid at Hampton High School should be when they leave here. They should be exceeding. Just meeting's not good enough. We expect more out of our teachers. We expect more out of our principals. We definitely expect more out of our kids. Because they all have the intelligence, they all have the motivation, they all have the ability to make this stuff happen. The other thing that you'll never hear us say is you'll never hear us talk about living up to your potential. Because potential is a limiting mindset, right? Because you could argue different kids have different potentials, and that means that you're allowing some kids not to be as good as others. And that's not okay either. They might have different strengths, they might have different abilities, they might have different places where they grow more and better than other places, but to say they're living up to their potential means that you believe that there's a limit for every kid. And we don't believe there are limits for any of our kids. Henry County Schools started this path towards personalized learning about 9 years ago, where there was a meeting where we talked about our mission statement. And our mission statement is right there, ensuring success for each student. We made a change to it. We made a change to it because it didn't used to say each student. That line right there, each used to say every. And that's a really minor point. When Todd talked about mission, he talked about what does it mean when you define who yourselves are as a school. For Henry County, each student was really important to us. To say that we're worried about each and every single individual kid. That each kid matters. Not every kid. Not looking at aggregate scores. Not looking at total pass rates across the district. But what are we doing for each child? And so we started a discussion at that point in time that said, we're not doing enough for each kid. And we started talking about how we could do things differently. At that time, Georgia had gone from multiple diplomas to a single diploma, had gone to this idea that every kid needed to go to college. And we kind of said, that doesn't feel right, that every kid needs to go to college. So we started a discussion about creating the Academy for Advanced Studies. We are opening the Academy for our 3rd year next year. We're really excited about that. The Academy is a place where kids can take CTA, dual enrollment, and advanced placement courses that you might not be able to offer here at Hampton High School. They can take them there. Because we had this thing where we had kids who, if they weren't geographically at the right school, they didn't have all the options as other kids. And so the Academy allows us to get all of our high schools to come together and have an opportunity to do different things for kids. We can also offer career pathways with heavy labs and things like that that we can't do at other schools. So we have auto mechanics coming back. We have carpentry coming back. We have welding. We have culinary arts. We have an allied health lab. We have a whole bunch of things that get kids college and career ready that any kid in Henry County can take advantage of now, whereas they weren't allowed to do that in the past. And so we're excited about that. We also offer dual enrollment courses at the Academy for Advanced Study so that kids are taking college courses for high school credit. We have kids who graduate every year. Last year we had 11 of them this past May who graduated high school with their associate's degree. That's exciting stuff. That's exciting stuff. But it's a little depressing that we only had 11. Right? We have about 20,000 high school kids. And out of those 20,000, we probably had about 9,000 graduates, 8,000 graduates, sorry, 8,000 graduates. And only 11 of those took advantage of that. 8,000 seniors, not necessarily graduates. So there's opportunity there for us to push kids. And that's the exciting part about thinking about time and space differently, is that we can provide multiple opportunities for kids in different ways. I want you to take a minute and think for a second, and some of you have done this activity already, and I apologize if you have to repeat it, but I still think it's a good one to do. I want you to take a minute and make this personal for yourself. I want you to think about kids right now. I want you to think about 3 kids. I want you to actually write down the names of these 3 kids. Actually take out a pen and write it down. And I want you to, or if you have a tablet or a phone, you can type it in there. But I want you to think about 3 kids. I want you to think about 1 kid who traditional high school, traditional American high school, it worked really, really well for them. It gave them everything they needed. It allowed them to be creative. It allowed them to be pushed. It allowed them to excel. Write that kid's name down. Who's that kid? It worked. Traditional high school worked for them. Get their picture, get their story in your head. Then I want you to think about a second kid. The second kid I want you to think about is the kid that fits that description that Sir Ken Robinson talked about. That kid who is walking through school but isn't really getting any benefit from it. Maybe that's a kid who's getting C's across the board. Doing everything more or less that they're supposed to do but isn't really getting any benefit from it. No real deep benefit. Write that kid's name down. Who's that kid? And then I want you to think of a third kid. I want you to think about a kid who was failed by the traditional public school model. It just didn't work for them. And on that one, I don't want you to think about that kid that's coming from crisis. I don't want you to write down the name of that kid, because that pulls on our heartstrings, that kid who, lives with a grandma because mom's in jail and dad died of a drug overdose. And they're lucky that they get to school every day. Not that kid. Because that kid's got so many other issues that are not related definitely to the model of school. But think about the kid who failed in school because of the model of school. An example of that we've lived in Henry County is a kid who maybe got B's or C's in middle school and really wanted to challenge themselves and take honors classes or AP classes when they got to high school. But the high school had a rule that said, sorry, you didn't hit the prerequisite, you don't get to take that class. And so by a policy, we limited a kid who raised their hand and said, I want to do more, and we said, no, you can't. Write that kid's name down. Now I want you to take about 5 minutes and tell the story of those kids to the people at your table. Say their names out loud. Describe those kids. Talk about them. Go ahead.
I just pick kids from my own school.
Oh, yeah.
One of the problems. Better.
grade science. I love it. Football, basketball coach here at Hampton Middle School, and I am a diehard New York Jets fan.
He's very sad.
I'm Michelle Talley, sixth grade science here at Hampton Middle, science department chair, Beta Club co-sponsor, and whatever else we need to do.
I'm Alan Old. I teach 8th grade science and still learning from the master. If you don't know who the master is, you will see in a few minutes.
All right, all right, all right.
When did he get here?
Jennifer Burton, 7th grade life science here. Thank you.
I'm Chad Gower. I'm the science fair pro here at Hampton Middle.
And we're going to go with you because we know you're all excited people.
Hampton High. I'm a transplant. I'm already going to say it now. From North Carolina. Health and PE. Thank you. I'm loving it.
Great.
I'm Hampton High. I'm also from North Carolina. I teach 9th grade English. And this is Levi.
Hi, Levi.
Levi baby.
Great.
He's gonna be good. He's gonna be good.
All right. So the purpose of our wait, how did you forget somebody? Don't ever blame the facilitator. Blame everybody else.
I'm
Stand there.
Heather Tolliver, and I'll be teaching science at Hampton High. Been in the county for 12 years.
And I have my personal assistant in the back. Go ahead and stand up and tell me who you are.
Hi, I'm Elliot Tio, and I'm a student at Hampton. So,
Great job.
Okay. We're ready. All right, so today the purpose is we're going to look at keys to our own personal success and development and see how we can incorporate that in everything we do, not just in the classroom, but in your personal life. So I'm going to give you a little bit of everything. And we're going to get the quick version. So if you look on your table, either if you have a folder or it's just on there, you have an agenda so that you know what we're going to do. We're going to start off with the welcome, which we pretty much started doing. Then we're going to talk about the history of what true colors is. And then we're going to move on to what are your true colors. And then from there, we're going to do some activities. Then we have a little edutainment. That's right, edutainment. And then we're going to try and apply it in close. Now, I'm going to let you know right now, we may not get through all the things on the agenda, okay? But we'll try our best to do what we can. All right? So did we officially figure out what time lunch is? Is it 11 or 12? I'm going to go with 12 because that's what I was told. Okay, I'm going to go with 12. If it's early, they will let us know. So you guys got to meet me, so let's do something fun, exciting, embarrassing, all of the above, and break the ice, okay? The best way to break the ice is to embarrass yourself and make people laugh, and then it just goes from there. All right, so let's play a game. I think we're going to play Deserted Island. That's the one we're going to do today. All right? So here's how this game works. So you've all been exiled to a deserted island for a year. Okay? In addition to the essentials, you may take one piece of music, one book, and you cannot take the Bible. Sorry. So one piece of music, one book, no religious books, just one piece of music, one book, and one luxury item. Okay? So you get to bring one piece of music, one book, no religious books, and one luxury item.
A piece of music, is that like one song or can it be a CD?
It could be a CD.
Can it be a device?
No. But that was a nice shot.
Can it be a mix CD?
Let me tell you a good rule of thumb. Never ask questions, because then you set your own limitations. All right. All right. So you have these three items that you can carry with the boat to the island. So what you need to do is list the three items, and all you need to do is explain what would you take and why. And you get 10 minutes. Hit start, Ellen.
I said again, music, book.
Music, book, Luxury items.
Luxury items.
Music plus luxury items.
And we're on an island,
You're gonna be on a deserted island.
deserted island.
And you get to bring music, book, and a luxury item.
Luxury items. You want to go see I've been playing on this. That's what I'm trying.
I know.
You never had that, what if you won the lottery, you won the deserted island? You when they get to class and it's just blended on.
You have to say one,
You want us to write why?
Yeah, why would you take those items?
Write it?
Mhm.
I got that planned now too. At least the gym is ours to keep.
Yes.
Hey. It's not a book, it's a magazine.
A subscription to the magazine. Okay. I will send it to where I'm at.
They have reading
Huh?
information on music. Formative articles.
Articles. Articles. Okay. Articles. There you go.
Don't call me mean, why are you cheating?
Let me see.
See you cheat.
That's when I have it read.
What if it's a real music guy? How you gonna take off? Is there a color for cheating?
Mhm.
Is that, what is that? Is that like?
Green.
Green.
Tally.
It's tally. Tally is the color.
Oh, I got it right. Yes, that's the best. Right, that's gonna be the best one. Right. They all look the same.
That's way more creative than mine.
They have it, but it's not.
Huh?
Implemented it.
Okay.
She said maybe I
Come back and find
Okay. By a show of hands, even though the timer is going, is anybody done? No pressure, I'm just seeing if anybody's done.
Almost.
No pressure, you got 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, I got you. Make sure you get my good sign. Make sure you get my good sign. And I will need to review the tape when we're done. Do we have airbrushing on this tape?
Yeah, that won't happen.
I'm gonna need an airbrush.
Mr. Widow, how long did it take over the exam?
Excuse me?
How long are we exam?
A year. 1 year.
We knew each other.
Don't believe him.
He's moved to separate.
Are you down south, like down here?
We'll go.
Okay.
Natalie.
Did it sell? Oh, that's right. Right now, we're friends that's also.
Josh, that
I don't know.
I'm saying,
It'll still be jumped in it. I think we just gotta let keep it for the kids and property. Farmland that's starting to come up quick. Building up really quick. We miss it.
let me tell you, if it gets a little bit too rough, this year, we will be ready. We will be having
That's right.
a manifesting a blizzard this year. Okay, let me just check in. Raise your hand if you're done. Raise your hand if you're not done. Raise your hand if you're not done. Two people? Two, you're not done? Okay. Okay, you got time, you got time, you got time. Just checking in. Making sure you're okay.
No, I didn't write it.
I'm here for you.
I just figured I'd explain why.
Who did that?
No, I said it gets something.
You said it looks good items, yes.
How luxury items. Alright. Go back and review that list. First, the last five.
You know things.
Would you mind sitting next to her?
Do you want me to just leave this?
Bring all that with you. Bring that with you. That's all you need.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, all right.
We will collaborate. That's right.
We run the No, I was in Apex Care. I say Apex, so I was in the same route. But, yeah.
Yeah, how to do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Bob.
All right, so let's break this ice. All right, I'm going to start with these beautiful ladies over here. If you would stand up and share your 3 items, because we're trying to get to know you. We figured by understanding these 3 items, we would know you just a little bit better. So go ahead and stand up.
Which one?
We'll start with you.
Okay, so my luxury item, I don't know if I was allowed to do this, was a boat. Can I please get off that as soon as possible and come back if I have to?
I love it.
A boat. My book of choice is The Secret, because positive thinking and inspirational. Something I can be focused on, stuck on that item. And then music, I was really torn about because I like just about anything, but Aerosmith, any Aerosmith.
Okay, give her a hand.
Kind of like that.
I'm just learning so much about you, you don't even know. Next person.
I picked for my music, I picked a CD that's got a double feature of the Madagascar 3 and the Frozen soundtrack.
She does have children. She didn't bring a child, we just learned she has children.
And I really like Afro Circus Afro, and I really like To Let It Go. So.
That's what you have to do on there. Very good.
The book I picked was The Count of Monte Cristo. Hoping I can find some treasure. Maybe I can get a couple of treasures. And then my luxury item is a magic super connected tablet device that has its own Wi-Fi, and it's already got a complete set of encyclopedias downloaded so that I can figure out how to feed myself.
That is so exciting. Let me tell you, give her a hand. All right, sir, if you would please share.
For my music, I picked Nickel Creek. I don't know but
Oh, Nickel Creek.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
I have my iPod. I'll play through at some point. I just like their music, so I figured that would last me a year. And then I have a huge all the books of the Lord of the Rings in one book, so I like that, so I could be happy reading that. And then my luxury item was a surfboard, because I've always wanted to learn how to surf. I figured a year on an island, by the end of the year, I could surf.
I like that. Give him a hand. That was good.
Okay, I went out of the box a little bit with my music and brought a guitar, and then my book is How to Play Guitar. My luxury item is a hammock.
All right, give her a hand. That was I like the way you say. So please stand up and share.
All right. Okay, music. I'm a Survivor by Destiny's Child.
But can I make a correction?
Yeah.
He would bring just the song, he would bring them to sing the song. I got you.
That makes sense.
Got you.
Why would like that? All right, here we go. Because that song would encourage me, if Destiny's Child can survive, I can survive. So, book, Survival Guide for Dummies. So, glean some information there. And the last one would be luxury item, a hammock. And I'm kind of combining it with a proverb. Laughter does good like a medicine. Anybody ever heard that? So, I was thinking, you sit at sunset in the hammock, and you think about all the teachers that are going back to school in 2 weeks. It makes you laugh, and you get peace in the hammock watching the sunset. There you go.
Sounds like
It's deserted.
Give him a hand. Thank you. Next, gentlemen.
Okay, so music, I decided to pick 3 religious songs, one of each beat. One for relaxation, one for right there in the middle, and the next one for like a fast-paced book in case have to run.
There
For a wild beast. Let's see, and let's see, the book I picked, How to Survive on Island.
Who wrote that book?
I don't know. And my luxury item will be a cooler. And that's for anything from hot to cold, you know, or anything else. But you would know what's in it. Stay.
Okay. This has kind of been right up my alley here when you asked me this, because I've been watching a lot of survival shows and stuff.
Wait, I just want to know Walking Dead does not count.
Why not? World, yeah, you need to survive. Anyway, so the book I would read would be a survival book by Cody Lundeen, who's one of the co-hosts of Dual, he was Dual Survivor on Discovery Channel. He's the guy that wears the bare feet and, you know, do really well and things like that. So he's wrote a couple of survival books. So I figured, hey, this guy can walk around in shorts and, you know, 0-degree weather, you know, he's probably knows his stuff. So anyway, I would have that book, because hopefully it tell, you know, all different kinds of climates and things like that. My music would be some positive, uplifting mixed CD. You know, add that, you know, something. I listen to all types of music. That's just me, no matter what genre it is. But that's what I would have, you know, some type of positive uplifting. It's only been there for a year, so you know, do that. My luxury item, I thought outside the box. I would have a canoe or a kayak with paddles. You know, so I could either fish to survive around the island, or if I need to get off, if it was, you know, an island or not too far away, I'd do that too. But I'd have to have something that I could get out there to have, you know, food to survive. So I was kind of in that mode when I thought about this.
Excellent, give him a hand, very nice. Young lady.
Okay, for music, I'm taking a solar-powered iTouch with music and podcasts, so it'll keep me busy. For a book, Love Does by Bob Goff. It will keep me motivated with hope of what I'll do when I return. And the luxury item is an endless supply of soap. So after a big day, I can stay clean, feel good, and relax.
For my music, I'm a huge Stevie Wonder fan, so I put songs in the key of life. That has everything in it. For my book, Acts of Faith by Iyanla Vanzant, it has a lot of motivational, inspirational readings in it. And then for my luxury item, I'm putting
I'll share my hand.
Tally.
All right. For my music, I put my Beyonce CDs because I love Beyonce. For my book, I put Chicken Soup for the Soul for inspiration. And for my luxury item, I put bubble bath because I like to relax at the end of the day.
Sir, if you want.
All right, my book was How to Fly a Plane. No, my luxury item was a plane. And if all that failed and I just had to be on the island to relax, I would bring songs in A minor. Because I love that CD. I listen to it back when I used to play football. I'm like to get pumped for games I like to watch.
Okay, give him a hand. Sir, if you would.
My song would have been NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. It's got a good beat, and then the song actually has some meaning because my book would be a world atlas. And then my luxury item would be a super yacht because it comes fully stocked with what everyone was saying. And I can use all this stuff. So bye 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 as I'm leaving the island and go anywhere I want to with the world atlas.
Give him a hand. You wait, sir.
Okay. Well, to begin, I would say it would be extremely hard to be able to do it with the Bible. Okay, so since I couldn't take my Bible, what I would do is spend time in prayer. Pray for wisdom as to how to survive. You know, if I had to choose a book, I would say any book by Dr. Charles Stanley. And I would also take school jazz.
All right, very nice. Thank you so much. Give him a hand.
All right, my luxury item would be my phone, because on my phone,
get my Pandora, which is
That's
books
smart.
downloaded, so I can listen.
That's smart.
There you go.
But what if the battery dies?
But it's
Solar power
luxury and we're
electricity.
over it.
Very nice. Give her a hand. Give her a hand. Okay, let's go right up in here.
My music, I chose India Aviation. My book was Survival of the Sickest, because I'm currently reading it and I'm not finished with it. My luxury item is my Mac, because that's what
Give her a hand.
The music I chose was Led Zeppelin. I like hard rock. I'm kind of thinking outside the box. I really love my mathematics, so I'll probably bring a lot of study material and my calculator, because I like to program my calculator. And for my luxury item, I'll probably bring some fitness equipment.
Yeah, very nice. Please give her a round if you would.
My music, I just said a big CD with various artists. My book, Anything by James Patterson. And for my luxury item, based on my hand, today I didn't find insects, so I would bring an unlimited supply of pulse.
Give her a hand.
Okay, for my music, I chose Frankie Beverly and May's Greatest Hits. One of my favorites. Book, I have a book at home on herbal medicines and remedies that I've really been using a lot, so I was bring that. And my luxury item, clothes. Lots of clothes.
Let's see, for my music, I would bring the Messiah Oratorio, because it lasts like 3 hours, so I figure I won't get bored with it, because it's long and good. And then for my luxury item, I'd bring a machete, because you can use that for anything. I'm gonna need that to chop up wood and kill things and defend myself. And for my book, I'd bring First Nights. It's about like the most important first nights of any operas and things like that. So like, it has no real purpose.
Poster.
All right. For my book, I said To Kill a Mockingbird, because it's got the full range of emotions and drama, everything. That's your TV shows, your movies, and your heartwarming stuff there every day. Music, probably James Taylor, because he's just relaxing. And luxury item, I did say unlimited bug spray, because I'm a magnet to anything, and I've watched Survivor. I'm gathered with bugs. Okay, or a pocket knife, because I can use it, and then I can use it to carve my little art sculptures and keep myself busy.
Give her a hand.
I'm Bruce Johnson, Hampton High School Video Production. That's why you see the camera going on in the background. Don't worry about it. It's just a prop. It's just a prop. Don't worry. You guys went way deep than what I was thinking. I'm going for a guitar. I figured I'll make my own drums on the island and have my own concert going on. Book would be a collection of masterpieces, which I have one at home and I haven't finished it. It's like this thick and it's like, War and Peace, or it's huge, but I haven't finished it yet. I'm working on that one. And the luxury item, I figured was a tent. I'm gonna need some shelter eventually. Fried crispy by the time I'm done. And there you go. Thank you.
All right, give them a hand. That was great. I love that. I appreciate your participation.
What are your 3 items?
What are my 3 items? That's a good question. I should have participated. If I had to bring a book, it would be Conversations with God by Neil Mulch, book 1, 2, and 3. If I had to bring a luxury item, it would be if I had to bring music, it would be like one of those wow CDs where it has all the multiple different hits of that year. Be that.
What year?
This year.
Oh.
Any year will be fine. So that's what I bring. All right, so what is really interesting about an icebreaker like that is there's a natural tendency to kind of look at people and kind of judge or maybe categorize them. But one thing that's very interesting about the activity is that you'll find that people surprise you. I'm sure there's some people around this room you never thought they'd yell out that they listen to Led Zeppelin, or that they read The Secret, or they have these different combination of things that they like to do just kind of here. But what's interesting to me as a true facilitator is as you guys are explaining who you are, because that was essentially what you're doing, I'm already trying to figure out what your strengths are. So I can already know how to adapt this room to the strengths and give you guys what you need. And just by getting 3 items, I've already been able to do that with most of you, okay? So we're gonna see now how you guys can do that, because I'm gonna teach you what I know, okay? Here are the goals for the seminar. I like to keep it nice and simple. So I just want you to have fun, okay? I want you to have fun. You don't have to think outside the box, because the box doesn't exist, okay? Whatever this box is that somebody told you existed with rules and regulations, somehow that was programmed into your head, thinking that there is a box. There's no box, it doesn't exist. So if you ask a bunch of questions and ask me for rules, I'll give it to you, but just know that you're limiting yourself, okay? Our next goal is for you to know yourself, and I'm sure you already know yourself, but I want you to really feel validation from this seminar and really feel like I really truly understand the core values, strengths, my motivations, what stresses me out, who am I? Okay? Once we get past the self, then the next goal is to try to understand others and understand how you can incorporate those strengths in dealing with various relationships. This is a overall, all-inclusive seminar. So don't think you're going to walk out of here learning how to just be a better teacher or how to understand your students. You're going to walk out of here understanding how to do better in relationships, all relationships. Mother, father, son, brother, sister, uncle, wife, husband, whatever title you have, whatever relationship you're in, stranger on the street. You're going to be able to apply this to all facets of your life. Very nice. Give her a hand. Give her a hand. Okay, let's go right over here.
My music, I chose India Aviation. My book is Survival of the Sickest, because I'm currently reading it and I'm not finished with it. My luxury item is my Mac, because that's what I do.
Give her a hand.
The music I chose was Led Zeppelin. I like hard rock. I'm kind of thinking outside the box. I really love my mathematics, so I'll probably bring a lot of study material and my calculator, because I like to program my calculator. And for my luxury item, I'd probably bring some fitness equipment.
My music, I just said a big CD with various artists. My book, Anything by James Patterson. And for my luxury item, based on my hand, today I did find insects, so I would bring an unlimited supply of off.
Give her a hand.
Okay, for my music, I chose Frankie Beverly and May's Greatest Hits, one of my favorites. Book, I have a book at home on herbal medicines and remedies that I've really been using a lot, so I would bring that. And my luxury item, clothes. Lots of clothes.
Let's see, for my music, I would bring the Messiah Oratorio, because it lasts like 3 hours, so I figure I won't get bored with it, because it's long and good. And then for my luxury item, I'd bring a machete, because you can use that for anything. I'm gonna need that to chop up wood and kill things and defend myself. And for my book, I'd bring First Nights. It's about like the most important first nights of any operas and things like that. So like, it has no real purpose.
Poster.
All right. For my book, I said To Kill a Mockingbird, because it's got the full range of emotions and drama, everything. That's your TV shows, your movies, and your heartwarming stuff there every day. Music, probably James Taylor, because he's just
You guys know way deep than what I was thinking. I'm going for a guitar. I figured I'll make my own drums on the island and have my own concert going on. Book would be a collection of masterpieces which I had one at home and I haven't finished it. It's like this thick and it's like, War and Peace, or it's huge, but I haven't finished it yet, but I'm working on that one. And the luxury item, I figured was a tent. I'm gonna need some shelter eventually, fried crispy by the time I'm done. And there we go. Thank you.
All right, give them a hand. That was great. I love that. I appreciate your participation.
What are your 3 items?
What are my 3 items? That's a good question. I should have participated. If I had to bring a book, it would be Conversations with God by Neil Mulch, book 1, 2, and 3. If I had to bring a luxury item, it would be an iPod. If I had to bring music, it would be like one of those wow CDs where it has all the multiple different hits of that year. Be that.
What year?
This year.
Oh.
Any year will be fine. So that's what I bring. All right, so what is really interesting about an icebreaker like that is there's a natural tendency to kind of look at people and kind of judge or maybe categorize them. But one thing that's very interesting about the activity is that you'll find that people surprise you. I'm sure there's some people around this room you never thought they'd yell out that they listen to Led Zeppelin, or that they read The Secret, or they have these different combination of things that they like to do just kind of here. But what's interesting to me as a true facilitator is as you guys are explaining who you are, because that is essentially what you're doing, I'm already trying to figure out what your strengths are. So I can already know how to adapt this room to the strengths and give you guys what you need. And just by giving 3 items, I've already been able to do that with most of you, okay? So we're gonna see now how you guys can do that, because I'm gonna teach you what I know, okay? Here are the goals for the seminar. I like to keep it nice and simple. So I just want you to have fun, okay? I want you to have fun. You don't have to think outside the box, because the box doesn't exist, okay? Whatever this box is that somebody told you existed with rules and regulations, somehow that was programmed into your head, thinking that there is a box. There's no box, it doesn't exist. So if you ask a bunch of questions and ask me for rules, I'll give it to you, but just know that you're limiting yourself, okay? Our next goal is for you to know yourself, and I'm sure you already know yourself, but I want you to really feel validation from this seminar and really feel like I really truly understand the core values, strengths, my motivations, what stresses me out, who am I? Okay? Once we get past the self, then the next goal is to try to understand others and understand how you can incorporate those strengths in dealing with various relationships. This is a overall, all-inclusive seminar. So don't think you're going to walk out of here learning how to just be a better teacher or how to understand your students. You're going to walk out of here understanding how to do better in relationships, all relationships. Mother, father, son, brother, sister, uncle, wife, husband, whatever title you have, whatever relationship you're in, stranger on the street. You're going to be able to apply this to all facets of your life.
You are hired.
Levi and I are good friends.
What color is Levi?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you would take your seats. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. Getting ready to do some work. This is Levi. He's going to help me facilitate. Levi is clearly an orange baby because he doesn't like to be held this way. He wants to have freedom. Green babies are the same. Blue babies, you can hold them like this and work on me. Gold babies. Yes. If I let him go, he will tear this place apart.
Look at me, he's like.
Because he's looking at you guys because he's like, where's the adventure? Where's the fun? And he's trying to tell me.
I look at that when I you.
Me! He's looking at me! I am the fun, I am the cool one.
He's like, where is my mom?
This is
it's all about me right now. Facilitator.
Everybody take a look.
Okay, so let's do group activity. So now you've gotten to know your groups. So far, so good. Everybody enjoying themselves so far? And then, is anybody late? I should have put a golden star to
Right.
Okay, so let me give you some information and then we're going to do a little activity. All right? So, one thing that's important to know about the true colors is whether you are an introvert or an extrovert. Okay? When you think of introversion and extroversion, do not think about it as the way you socialize. Think about it as a way of gathering energy. Okay? So people who are introverted, mostly introverted, because just because you're mostly introverted doesn't mean you can't be extroverted. And just because you're mostly extroverted doesn't mean you can't be introverted. You just have to turn it on. Okay? But if you're mostly introverted, that means you gather your energy internally. Okay? You need your space. If you have an introverted boss, which if Dr. Bell is your boss, you do, they need time to process. So when you have an idea and you give it to them, walk away and let them marinate on it. If you have an extroverted boss, they're going to act right away. You know, I really think that we should do snacks in the common areas. Absolutely, we should do snacks in the common areas. And I want you to get right on that right now. That's a great idea. When are you going to start? Start right now. Extroverted. Okay? Extroverted students tend to get in trouble in school because they're actually processing out loud. So you know the rules of raise your hand, and they just call out and they just say stuff out their mouth. They're not really talking to you. They're talking out loud because that's how they gather their energy. So especially if you get them all excited and they know the answer, oh, A. Okay, and then the teacher goes, raise your hand. So you gotta be careful because now you're blasting their self-esteem because this is how they process. This is how they think. Right, Levi, what's going on? Levi, you're trying to take my show. What is he doing? Okay, so if you are an introvert, that means you process your first color, the brightest color, internally. So for those of you that are introverts, most people that are closest to you know that that's your first color. It's not easy to figure out. So if you're an introverted blue, and you go home to your spouse and you say, I'm a blue, and you feel that they don't know you that well, they're going to say, no, you're not. You're the meanest person I know. What is evil? You're a red. That's what you are. Okay? If you're an extrovert, it's very easy for people to figure out your color and process it. Okay? Because you gain your energy just from talking. Okay? So here are the stats. When we look at the brightest color, your first color, the brightest, here's how you look population-wise. So blues make up 12% of the population. Okay, so if your brightest color is blue, blues tend to struggle with the thought of the fact that how come nobody feels the way I do? How come I'm always so emotional? How come I can feel what other people are feeling? Why is my intuition so strong? I can't explain how I know. I just know. Right? Okay? Greens make up 12% of the population too. Greens are usually the rarest. Okay? And they're very logical, but the difference is when you find out you're a green, they love it. Because greens are naturally confident, and they're usually natural leaders. Okay? So when you find a leader, chances are they may have green in their primary colors, because they're natural leaders. And if you think about things educational-wise, right? Greens get their sense of esteem through knowledge. So it doesn't mean that they're smart, it just means they like to attain knowledge. So in school, greens are going to get a lot of praise because they like to attain knowledge. And what do we give out all day, every day? Knowledge. But they will tend to get in trouble because sometimes they think they have more knowledge than you. Okay? Then we have the next highest are goals. 38% of the population, they're very practical. So most of you know someone with gold. Those are the people that are great at finding bargains. They're very practical. They're coupon clippers. They know how to get a deal. I was at a faculty meeting and I was overwhelmed with the goals as they sat down and talked about how they need a new calendar to put on the front of their door so they can organize all their events for
for their family and their kids. And I'm sitting there like,
How did you feel about that, Blue?
I was like, I don't feel, I feel left out. So I used a strength and I inserted myself and said, ooh, I got a new calendar at Walmart for $5. And they perfectly said $5. And then now they do the gold dance, they try to outdo themselves. Well, I got a logo with a calendar at such and such a Target. And the other gold, oh, really, I got it. Oh man, very practical. Very traditional. So what tends to happen is majority rules. So a lot of the rules in society that you feel this pressure to follow comes from that majority rule. Because they're very traditional. Okay? They know they want to get a house. They know they're going to get married. They know they're going to have kids because that's tradition. Unless some type of trauma occurs, they have a very straight path. Okay? Very black and white. What's right is right. What's wrong is wrong. There's no in between. Whereas blues, all they see is gray all day, everything. Blues would make terrible judges. Somebody would come into the courtroom. They'd be like, we robbed. Oh my God, why did you do that? You were hungry? Were you hungry? You didn't let it on? Or go and like, what? You look guilty. It's a wrap. Okay? Oranges also dominate the population, and those tend to be your kinesthetically gifted. Okay? Usually you'll find gifted features in blue, and you'll find it in orange. So a lot of people do tend to get confused because there are overlapping traits. So some people sometimes think Andre's an orange. It's my weakest color. Andre's a blue. Okay? But I have that creativity. Okay? I have that energy. I have to turn it on. And sometimes I need to turn it down. Hey.
Start close.
You falling asleep?
Go ahead,
That
keep on
was
holding.
my
Keep on
hand
holding.
the whole time.
You have a higher
Yeah, go ahead. Okay? So we're gonna let it knock out. Okay, so because they're kinesthetically gifted, let's see, it's taking over the show.
You must have turned off the internet.
Okay?
Yeah, he's a blue.
He's
He said he was
orange.
an orange, he's a blue.
Okay, because they're kinesthetically gifted, those are your athletes, okay? Or those are your musicians, okay? They're very good with working with their hands, and they're also natural leaders. So the natural leaders in society are your oranges and your greens, okay? So because your oranges dominate majority rules, they create the rules. So if you grew up thinking that you need to be in a sport, or you need to buy the latest clothes, or you need to do, thank the oranges for that.
2014, no spaces.
They said something about trust. The trust relationship between this work session and the property definitely failed. I trust it.
You need to talk to him. I'm here for you. I'm going to solve the problem.
Is this where we're supposed to be?
Is
Is this where we're supposed to be?
I don't know. I'm still.
We don't trust each other.
Let's see,
I just
is yours working now? It's moving along farther than the last one? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You go to the middle school? I don't think you can steal stuff. Ooh. Windows failed to start. Exciting.
It's already starting off on the best foot.
This is super exciting. Let's see what happens on that one. Okay, we'll keep working on yours. You can always be on one of your lovely colleagues.
I'm a lovely colleague.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be going. If you were in the right place, I could project, but what I love about new schools, I helped start one last year, and this really hilarious thing happens, which is in brand new schools, there's no like bucket of random cords. You know how every school's got like, oh, there's the closet where we put the random things. And then we go get it when we need a cord. Well, I don't even have buckets of cords yet here, so I don't have a way to port into the projector to present for you. Because there's no cords for me to then jack into this thing, which is funny because we had the exact same problem at the school we started last year. All of a sudden we were like, let's get some cords. Yeah. Need some cords, you know, so it's just a really funny thing. But hopefully I'll have one by tomorrow. That's my goal. is to have boards. But my name is Diana Loffenberg. I am coming to you off the plane from lovely western Wisconsin, where I grew up on a farm. I taught in Wisconsin, Kansas, Arizona, Pennsylvania. I was in the classroom for 16 years and now predominantly do work similar to this and also help new school startup adventures. So I'm part of a new school startup in Philadelphia. Eventually we'll have a middle school in another year. And then thinking about one in Denver as well. I just keep trying to put schools in places I want to go visit. Definitely put one in Denver. Great idea. But yeah, one of my friends just moved there. He's like, we should have you up for some professional development. I think that's a fabulous idea. So a lot of the work that I do right now is around professional development, but I mean, up until May 30th of this year, I was in the classroom with middle schoolers. Out of the 16 years that I've taught, 9 of the years were at middle school, 7 were at high school. Predominantly in the social sciences, so all the history, government, geography domain, but talk a lot about project-based learning and this kind of intersection with modern kind of methods and tools and that 21st century skills category that you'll hear Danny and Todd talk about. And that's what we're going to focus on today. And the way that we're going to do it is trying to model as much as possible kind of some different ways that you can look at it in the classroom. So what I have for you are 4 different activities, and we're going to treat you as one group here because you're all middle school, right? So you'll be a group, you'll be a group, you'll be a group, you'll be a group, and you'll cycle through working at through the activities one at a time. So kind of like stations, not super active. You don't get to get up and move too much, so I apologize there. But it's going to be exposure to a lot of material. There's no way that you would soak it all today. It's not meant to. There's a lot of stuff that you can pursue later on your own. But it's really meant to, again, expose you to a lot of the concepts, provide pathways for you to learn on your own with it, access to resources. But then also within each of them, some are asking you to have face-to-face conversations with the group. Others are asking you to pursue things individually and go chase down the information that you need to find. Others are asking you to, participate in a forum or participate in a little online chat. So different ways of participating in an activity that isn't just this. So trying to model a few of the different ways that you can go about interacting with content in kind of stations or, what's the other word we use for them? Stations of learning, and then asking you to have some deliverables. On each of the activities, if there's anything that I would like you to do, it's in yellow. So as a group, you'll work through the different activities, but one at a time. We'll spend about 35 minutes on each and have a little bit of discussion in between. If I can project, there's a couple things that we'll take a break and bring everybody back together and talk about it and then go back to your groups. If I can't project, we'll pretty much I will pop around in groups. One of the activities says, kind of after the first 10 minutes, ask Diana to come over because there's a guided practice piece of it that I sit down with one of the rotations and talk through one particular piece of it, and then I'll check in. Again, trying to model a little bit of how you might handle it in the classroom where you have students doing 4 different things in different groups and how you as a teacher might spend your time in that space to make sure everybody's kind of on track, but also how you can say that, for a particular session or module or piece of it, that you were going to be really invested in working with people on that one, and the rest of it could be kind of self-guided or group-guided. The other thing that I would like you to, after you've done all of your color assessment, and we had a really funny conversation at the end of last group, which is you'll find yourselves exhibiting behaviors that you would correct in your own students when we're doing this. One of the teachers went, yeah, I just went and walked through the halls for a little while. I went, yep. Another one went, I definitely was on Facebook. Another one was showing off baby pictures. She was sitting over here. It was hilarious because it's all those things that when you see kids do it, you get your teacher voice like, you shouldn't be doing that. Just recognize that sitting for that amount of time is really hard for anybody, and that you just got to have a moment of humanity when you're dealing with your kids. They pick up their phone. It's often because they have something really personal on it that they think is important. It's not the right time, but You know, often jumping down someone's throat is not the way to endear yourself, but it's that moment of, oh, I wanted to pick up my phone. Why do I want to do that? And just, you know, have a human moment. So notice your own proclivities as a student while you're in here too, because it's often funny. Like I'm somebody, if you tell me what to do, I will probably not do it. Like the minute somebody walks by, I'll be like, I would rather go look at this. Like I do that. I know that as myself as a student. So just got to remember those things about yourself and use that to help yourself understand your students. Because when you ask kids to do things like this, they have a lot of time that's self-directed. And just humanize it. You can tell kids, you know, well, I was in a class this summer, and when I got time to work on my own, I found myself, you know, and just humanize the whole thing. So think about that while you're working through these as well. So, activity 1 will start here with you ladies, and then activity 2 will be our middle school people. You guys can be activity 3, and you guys can be activity 4. So they're non-sequential, so just jump in. It's pretty self-explanatory what I would like for you to do in each of the activities. Some are more self-directed, some are more group-directed. The end goals are the essential questions and the outcomes on that very first page if you want to get a good overview. And then I will pop around and check in, make sure everybody kind of knows where they're at. So we got about 35 minutes for you to work through your activity.
You don't have to, I could just.
Visualize whatever it is.
If I think kind of, you just think very well.
One of the things about having concerning too,
And it was not operator, I promise you.
And what they've done, there's a lot of suggestions for how to manage this. Did you know?
That's my art.
That's what they'd say in front of the class. I've heard them say, I've heard them go. Did you figure out what the problem is here? And she might be sitting right next to go, I think it's an ID check.
That
sounds
hilarious.
Yeah, that's funny.
And they never.
Why
you don't write it
An ID 10T.
And they say it's okay.
It's an
I think it's
It's an idea.
or it'll be I think it's fixed error, problem in chair, not in computer. Oh, yeah.
That is great. Okay, so we're doing what our children would be doing. And not working.
There's an SFU. And I'm going well, see, in my art, I would fix this right here. I would take my paper cutter and I would fix that right off.
Are you
Well, that's
We'll be nice about it.
I just put you of your experience with this, the information's coming back in the same form. And not only those things like, so this is chapter and then that I had.
Yeah, we have to, I think we have to do that one and respond individually for the next one.
And it was like having you just kind of have to reset that. Like rather than
Just landing in the center is gonna
I was just trying to figure out.
My wife.
Okay, so we got the last one with that. Lisa Norton, Aaron Silver, please contribute. How do you feel? Like I said, how do you feel about this? I just can't. That's what a lot of people say. And then you start to think, how do you feel about that? And you're wanting to understand. What's the preliminary draft?
Or that's science,
Where's that?
That's why I'm reading this.
Yes, sir. You guys are on your activity.
Taking all mine.
Just participating in your work.
So, welcome to your classroom.
Right. I teach.
We can try one more.
No, don't worry about it. I'm looking over there.
It's you.
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, we should find you one because there's some, like this one's fairly collaborative, but there's one that if you don't teach what they teach, it would make more sense if you had your machine.
Okay.
Because some of them are a little bit more.
This one
individualized.
was continuing. It required me to repair windows, so I repaired windows, and then it welcomed me for a good 5 minutes.
Because that's where I put mine, so it's on there. Okay. So we respond to that.
I think you should ask them.
I don't know how to respond to it. Just put at. There's no formal way to do it, but the kind of.
And then you're
At their name, like the at sign. Yeah, you can just add Mary. Okay, so I'll put my name in again.
See, this is the proper way. Without offending her. Hashtag.
What's Mary? What's good about it? And so you just kind of, some of this stuff you just surrender to them and be like, they would know how to do this.
And
So you wouldn't need to explain that to them.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll let them explain it to me even if I understand because they get some more power.
I wasn't allowed to teach them this in my house until until I had some places to go.
Another deadline. We got a couple more. These are fun.
Are they? I feel like I want to be graveyard.
Somebody said you need to talk to her about writing whatever it was, something like that. I never used it. And back then, and then map out
Guess what I have for you?
It's gonna die in 30 seconds to the same.
Just wait till I get out of the job.
All right, read/scan. They start with what resonates with you. It's reading, please discuss this with your. Hold up the new tab and then I just that.
Okay, so read and start. Oh, I can't open it.
Aha, page swap.
Is your page locked?
I think it's a good deal because she like all the flesh wounds. When she did, I said, if you feel something like 70% of the flesh wounds. Yeah, that today when you said.
Click on it.
Yeah, but you have to responsibility.
I hit a side.
What you'll look, I think it looks more traditional, like if you just did a professional learning type of here, you have an online class. They have like response to special questions. I was thinking about doing something like that, the essential online essential all those
But rather, how you interact with the street. Got it? Where it says be less helpful, but all I can do that. He's a second. And she's getting chemistry. That block.
Hey, have y'all been able to access the second URL? Y'all been able to access that second URL? Because it says page blocked.
I don't think we've got the second.
We're not even in there. You know how that is. You got the orange in your room.
Yes, sir.
The page block. And it's not just me.
Isn't that fun? Which one?
Oh, yeah. So, Aaron was in here the last session when that happened, and he said, it's really good, I think, that a lot of you are on the student side filter right now, because it helps inform you about kind of, and he said that whenever you bump up against a filter like that, which is something completely innocuous, you have to be fine. But he said that respond to the form, like if you do that for me, and just say we're in a professional development, can we please get this unblocked? That'll help me for tomorrow. He said, but in the block form, he said there's something. This right here. That's the, well, he said there was supposed to be a link. I wonder if it doesn't look different on the iPad.
No, mine didn't have it either, so here's
Maybe on the student side it doesn't. I may email it to him, but he said it, I think maybe on the teacher side it provides a link. But it's hard to know what's going to be blocked unless you're on the student side. You know, so it's just really interesting functional piece. But he said that it's pretty fast to get things unblocked. And that particular guy, I can't get around it right now, but he's a middle school teacher in Phoenix, some of the most challenging educational support situation in the country in terms of having any.
There is none.
Right. But what I love about him is that he is somebody who just pretty honestly owns his own troubles and, like, very honest about like, oh, that didn't go as well as I wanted to. Here's why I take it apart. Tries to do a lot of project-based and is a really thoughtful guy. So he's a fun guy to just have in your arsenal to read every once in a while and be like, oh, this fine human being struggling with exactly what I'm struggling with. And it's just a nice, he's a really great writer around his own practice. And so he's a good guy. His name's John Spencer. Also wrote this really awesome children's book with his wife that's like published. Like now with All Publisher, he did a self-publication of it, and all of his Twitter friends kind of promoted it, and it took off. And it's this really adorable. Started out of stories he was telling his kids as bedtime stories. He wrote this. I know. He's a really quality. Yeah, everything. No, he's
I'm just kidding.
I know how hard it is to stay positive about teaching in Arizona. It's hard. Like, it's some of the worst conditions. He's got a population that's almost all English language learners and at poverty level, and he just keeps going back year after year and fighting a good fight.
I came from the Louisville. We were in the booth free lunch. Out behind the booth, 100% totally free lunch. And we spent a lot of time in the school and getting arrested in class.
Teachers?
No. Sometimes. No, I'm kidding. Kids live with their parents inside there wearing security vests.
I'll tell you this. I'm glad you're here. So if you guys want to hop over here, I'm going to run through a piece of this as a
where when you reach this point, that's a great place.
It says Ed Jennifer.
So yeah, just hop over to the Disney guys, and you just sit there.
Are you doing
We've not reached the point whether or not you have. I was just telling you guys, I can't get us a block yet, but that's what right so he's a lot of fun. It's about $2 less than my other one, and it's got 10 or 12 hour battery life. And when I travel as much as I do, I was like, okay. One of the things I want to walk you guys through was, yeah, that's sort of, you can go back, we're never going to get through all these activities. Basically, myself as a teacher, you can peruse this will never go away. So you can go through this at your own level. If one of these activities you're like, ooh, I need to deep dive a little bit in that one, or that seems interesting. You know, again, this is a level of personalization where I don't believe that all of these things are relevant to all of you all of the time, but that you as professionals can sort through and try to, you know, like, oh, I need to read up a little bit more on that. Can I have that? So we won't make it through everything. But click on the Loftenberg.wordpress.com. It'll take you out to blog posts that I wrote about a particular project that I did, and I just wanted to walk you through kind of what an inquiry project.
And if we give a relation, I would say write something and say how much.
You guys are all middle school, right?
Explain your project.
You know, go to my middle school.
Oh, okay. If I don't say
it is really cool. Development is very difficult for schools to do that project. I tried once. Actually, I did hold it. Everybody involved. But I'll show you a middle school one that's a little bit more age appropriate. It's under the another example of scaffolding theory. And it's the last one that says she works in it. Another example. Right. And I'll walk through this one with you guys because this one is like I did with 7 years ago. This was really the first project I did like this that was really student driven, student interest. Just let them go with whatever big idea they had. And it was a really powerful learning experience for me, but also for students. The big idea is that I had the opportunity to take the kids to listen to Paul Recescovine talk. He is the gentleman upon which Hotel Rwanda was based on. It was the real Hotel Rwanda, and he was going to speak at high school 6 blocks away for free. And they said, you want to take your kids? And I was like, sign them all up. And then I sat there and was like, very going to walk in and 13-year-olds talk about genocide. What did I just do? You know, like, what's this going to look like if I actually do this? And so I started breaking down what I thought was really compelling about this particular story. I was teaching geography that year, and so we talked about what was happening in Africa, the political situation around it, and the history of it, and all of the really depressing side of the story. But when it came time for the kids to do their own project, what I had them do was choose anybody's story and focus on the idea of a single person's influence positive influence on someone. He used his story as the example of the power of one person to positively impact others. And then he challenged them to find a story of another person to tell in like 2-3 minutes of video, where they would, do kind of historical timeline, they had to do research, they had to have bibliography, but I wanted them to tell the story in person, and then at the end of it, they were supposed to comment on how they thought they would use their own life to positively impact others. And I didn't quite realize what I was asking when I asked it, like, yeah, of course you'd ask that. And then you listen to what they say, they weren't saying like super pushy, they were saying some really honest, heartfelt, interesting things. This was the very first project like this I did that was super kind of high tech, and we did things I didn't know how to do. We said to kids, I know enough about Windows Movie Maker to get you kind of a couple of skills, but you're going to figure more of this out than I am. So, and I just let it get up and run around the room and help each other out. And it was the highest completion rate I had. It was so, I had a kid that slept 4 days in class, and I'm really proud to say he came in 6 times to record his audio because he wasn't about to show something out that wasn't seen. He couldn't stand that idea, and I was like, really? Sure, you can come in again. That's great. And after he's repeated this factual story, like he's now internalized it, he's now thinking about it. And so it was really positive for me. But in terms of inquiries, I just let them ask their own questions. I had a robust amount of content spinning as an example. The challenge then was just take this and apply it to each other, and then creatively come up with their own response to it. And kids did things like people from their personal experience, like some of them were their dads were police detectives, and they really thought that was awesome. And then, one of the most personal experiences he did is on his name Pat Tillman, who was Arizona Cardinals. He went playing football and enlisted his brother. He ends up dying by friendly fire in Afghanistan. This was a big story back years ago, and for that kid, it was something that stuck with him at the very end of his life. He says, I don't think I would ever enlist. You can see at the end, I'm going to be part of the board. I'm going to do that. He knew himself well, and he said, I don't think I'm going to do that, but there are everyday things that I can do, like open doors for people, or pick up trash, and really look at how I can help people on a daily basis, that will help make the world a better place. It's love and pride, it was just really like, this is my 12-year-old kid that she had no idea. Think like that, so there was just really interesting things happening, but it was the first time that I, as a teacher, ever really thought, if I just let go of this thing, you got the boundary, right? There needs to be video, there needs to be bibliography, in fact, there are these components, but then you really let them tell something that they didn't themselves about the I was done. That was it. I never turned back from that kind of instruction. So this was middle school project that I really never had a chance to teach anything. It's fun. But that kind of lays out but again, letting kids ask questions, keeping their interest, giving them time to think what they want to do, providing that resources, but not scripting it at such a level that it's a cookie cutter thing. It's not a recipe. So much as saying, here's some raw materials. You do whatever you want to with it. It's not everybody has an PowerPoint. There's 10 slides. Slides you need to be achieved. It's like, because they're not really doing anything. Somebody else there. That's another thing. The most on this work on kids when you personalize it. So we're saying, who are you? What is this team? What do you like to do? And really involve them in this kind of robust investigation of the academic responsibility, but it comes from their inspired someone to know. Similar to this year, when I went back to middle school, I had a this building 6 years ago. I had a long-term son that chose to long-term sub for two of my best friends called. That's what we said, goals to win at least one. I know you don't have a job, but I have a job. Well, it's not required you to go work every day. Could you come in long-term sub? And I was 6 stage last year. But we did a history of education. Again, this is totally opened up thing, like, I don't care what you study, but we're going to go through the historical research process. They're like, you mean I can study accuracy? Yeah, they'll figure out what it's all about. Great. I'll put it back in. Let's see what we've got now. You know, another kid, one of those did gymnastics. We kept running up to where they I don't know, John Doe. Nothing! No! His whole face was like, they were running back to his chair, you know, like looking at Laura Grayfield, like every 7th grader's first night there, and figuring this out, you know. But super engaged. Right, it was really funny. But I know, you're just both kind of amazed and horrified all at the same time.
Probably already knew.
Right, but it was like,
reading it,
no.
I was like, oh, I know that.
There were some really funny moments. I didn't get on the spectrum. Pretty high functioning autistic, but on the spectrum. So let me clarify. I can make a cartoon strip that shows off what I've learned about I just need to provide historical facts and cite my source. Agreed. He goes, no problem. And just didn't speak for like 3 days. Honed in. He was like, I just need to make a cartoon. I'm like, yes. Great. But that was another really successful middle school project. Not quite the what if history, which is this high level concept that takes a little bit more not concrete, but a little bit more complex abstract thinking. But getting them moving in the direction of doing real research. It could be a great joint project with ELA and history and liaison. So there's just different ways to kind of go about inquiry process. But this kind of getting them to ask their own questions is kind of a trick. I don't, they were running in your room going, more details, well, I just gotta know. And they're not coming in like that. I wish they did, they don't. And so you've got to kind of, some of the stuff at the top that I was having you work through. Those are some of those, what are some high interest kinds of things that come through all their learning instead of, please read the passage and then we'll discuss it. Here's this really 2 minutes video, tell me what you think, what connections you make. Then they want it. So when you're approaching your content, what is your kind of inquiry moment, your hook, to get them to start asking their own questions? How are you going to both model what you want out of them, like I did with the specification, while you allow them to pursue something that they're shared, and what's the interplay of them. And then the last piece, and I have that at the very bottom of the original page, is the role of reflection in the process. There's 2 student examples. I worked in a system that had an extremely robust sense of the importance of reflection. And so after all the big projects, the students would write up reflection. And I included 2 cheap examples there of student reflection pieces that they had written. It's at the very bottom of the very first page. Back in that Google site. So it's at the very bottom of that one. But what it is if you click on it, you can see the kid has years worth of reflection. So our school has each kid belong to a project, reflect on each time, and then they have this running almost portfolio record of everything they learned and what they learned while they were learning it. So after you did a project, what did you learn? What did you find most interesting? Where did you stumble or have trouble? What was particularly successful? What would you do differently next time? Ask kids questions like that because there are more powerful potential between these 2 buildings. Is if you guys aren't doing that early with the kids, they get here in the 9th grade and they're already reflecting about their own learning. What you start to see is it is the epitome of personalizing your learning because they start to understand how they become an agent of their own experience rather than the person that yells who tells them to do that. It's that I understand that what I did as a learner got me to this point. When you ask them to reflect a lot, they become really savvy. When people come in and talk to us, there was a moment where we were at a conference. They'd asked us to reflect our students. So we did. And at the table, they were talking about at the end, each gentleman So I just finished my sophomore year of high school. He was like, where's the teacher? And I got invited to Australia out of that thing, which I just laughed at. I was like, man, you got a picture of Australia. Wow. I'm gonna need something for that. Yeah, it was really funny because he just couldn't believe that he sat there for an hour speaking about her and then he was like, 15, huh? That's awesome. Full disclosure, she's an exceptional student, but she was really speaking about her own learning. It's not just these are the facts I know. Right. This is how I understand myself in the learning process. And that's what I started to get aspect. So one of the tricks to this is not to do it the right way. Have them, turn it into a project, step away from something, other things, then come back to it. Maybe to bring in smells, just like you guys I need the weekend, I need a minute to not have that thing, and then you can go back to it and have a fresh set of eyes. And I just, for me, I started teaching here for this is my 11th year teaching. And it was the thing that shifted how I did what I did. I'd done projects before, I'd done tech before, I'd done all these things before, over years. Like you guys have a system where they can still read, they were separated, how they learn, and then they read, part of their 8th grade experience is to go back and read what they wrote. So it's part of their learning in 7th grade, 8th grade. It's just this great follow-up piece that is exceptionally personalized. It isn't just about accessible, it really is about how they interact with it. These projects have great content outcomes, great products that they're learning, but also serve as really formative ways where here's where I saw work, here's what I think I'll do. And before you start again, please go back and reread your last reflection that you wrote about, where you're struggling with projects, like what do you do differently. It's that kind of repetitive, go back, lean forward, go back, lean forward, see progress.
Even from the beginning of the year to the end.
Oh, absolutely. It is actually, like I said, for me, being career professional was one of those things where this is what I was missing. This is the piece, this is the crux of it, that if you did project-based learning really well, but just never spent the time to really reflect on how you did, what you did, why you did, what you did, what you did. Next time, if you don't do that, it's the same as a teacher. You're gonna just make mistakes and you're like, why did I not do this? And actually contemplating and reflecting and having the time and space to do it. And slowing down. Slow down. Don't take the time to slow it down. So there's a bunch of examples on there. Resources of units. In another one of the rotations, you see content-wise, a lot of these are mine. They just are easier for me to speak about, so it's heavy into the social center. But one of the rotations will be about the different content areas, resources, and another one is going to be about digital content, how to locate such as specific digital content. So that's coming. So you guys can just walk around for a couple minutes and they're going to move on and let's get another topic.
Do we move to the other topic?
No, that's where it's now on second. You're now on to activity. It's lacking mobility. I understand that what I've got here is pretty much but it's meant to do. So one of them is where you do a lot of online, like participate in IM things. Another one is around group discussion. Another one is kind of guiding practice. I'm trying to kind of model what it could look like if you actually ran your classroom like this. Where it was 4 simultaneous activities. It could be 4 different days. And one day was very teacher-centered, and another day, because these, I spent 4 days on what I have here. So I was trying to layer as much on top of it as possible to be like the thing we're trying to create, also talking about content. I'm going to give you guys a quick video. My students did a project a couple years ago where they had to answer a question which was related to something called the C-SPAN Student Cam Competition. It's a really cool one. And frankly, I find an extreme amount of amusement if I can ever get kids to go to C-SPAN. C-SPAN again, 16-year-olds. Yeah. But what it is it just asks them a broad question, asks them to produce a video that answers it. And so this particular year was, what do you think should be the president's greatest concern for national politics this year? And these two boys, they're very precocious, 16-year-old boys, came up to my desk and said, we're going to do drugs for our project. And I said no and made them go away. And then the next day they came up and said, we're going to do drugs for our project. And now I think they just want to keep walking up to my desk and saying, we want to do drugs for our project. And I sent them away. And on the third day they said, we're doing this, it's going to be good, you need us to just let us do this. And I went, all right, great. And then they said, can we go work in the hall? I was like, oh my gosh. Like, this is going to be a mess. But what they turned out is to date one of the slickest pieces of video I've ever had kids produce. I thought they were going to do some cliche thing about medical marijuana. It's not what they did. And it's a really interesting piece. So watch it for what it's evidencing, what you see that evidence is learning, what they did well, what's interesting. My music's that came from. Let's see if I can get it to stop. I'm on a split screen and it's not cooperating. Always fun when we have computers. So this was just a piece of their video. What did you see here that you think was evidencing learning that was kind of solid as an academic demonstration piece? What did you see going on? The use of statistics was extreme. They were like a fact machine. They were heavily researched. They cited often where their source came from in the conversation, but not in a dry way. What else was interesting about what they did?
Very visual.
Very visual.
Fluid too, not just visual, because you can be visual and
choppy and
just like a slideshow.
Yep.
But that was very
professional, actually.
They own the night.
Yep, it was from a design and presentation standpoint, it had a lot of attention to detail. And for those of you who've never edited video, to get something to look like that took a lot of time. And basically the partnership, one of the kids wrote the script, and then the other kid went out and found all the pieces that helped tell the story visually. And so they had kind of decided where they were headed, and one did a lot of the script research, and the other one did a lot of visual research. And then one of the kids had a particular aptitude for video editing. I mean, it was, everybody did their videos, and then you got to this one, and everybody knew that this was, not a single kid would have challenged that that was the best one. Like, they all knew what smooth looked like, and it was that. And my former boss said, that's not just kid good, that's just good. And so, they used music well, they used the visuals well. The thing that I liked, two things. One, they didn't tell a cliche story. You think you know what they're going to talk about, and then they totally take it in a different place. And then they use all these images that are very familiar to you, but have a almost dissonant narrative going underneath of it. So your brain is trying to make sense of, well, and then they're 16-year-old boys, because they have Viagra ads in there, and they think they're hilarious. Like, we got this project where we got to put a Viagra ad, and it was totally applicable to our learning. I mean, so they were definitely still 16-year-old boys, but they had done this really solid piece of work that if you'd asked to do it in any other way, this skill set, there was no other way to see this than that. I mean, there's nowhere written like, can smoothly edit together, pieces of still images into compelling video. Like, this is an advanced kind of thing that they did, but it is still script writing. It is still heavily researched. It is still showing off kind of the standard academic pieces that you want, but in a way that's more about how they want to evidence their learning, and a way that's more interesting for an audience to interact with their ideas. And it's different, and it's a new thing, and kids that are